You just received your commercial pilot certificate. Can you now start charging people for flights? Well, not exactly. Let me explain. Under 61.133, it says you may act as pilot in command of an aircraft carrying passengers and property for compensation or hire. It also says if you are doing that, you have to be qualified and in compliance with the applicable parts under this chapter. This chapter being Chapter 1, the applicable parts being Part 61, 91, 121, and 135, respectively. A commercial operator is not the same thing as a commercial pilot certificate. Commercial operator is defined under 1.1, which is applicable to what we're talking about as a person engaged with an aircraft in transporting persons and property for compensation or hire. In other words, the sole purpose of that flight is to offer a service to transport persons or property and receive compensation for it. That's a commercial operator. I think a lot of times there's confusion between common carriage versus private carriage. Remember, common carriage is advertising or holding out to the public, offering a service to carry passengers or property for compensation. That requires an air carrier certificate under either Part 121 or 135. Private carriage can still be considered a commercial operator. If you offer a service to transport persons or property and receive compensation for those services, if you're doing it on a small scale and you're not holding out to the public, you have only a few contracts. That is a private carriage operation. Both private and common carriage are commercial operations. Private carriage requires an FAA operating certificate. Common carriage requires an FAA air carrier certificate. So, as long as there's compensation being received for the sole purpose of the flight, that's a commercial operation. There are some limited things that you can do with your commercial pilot certificate without holding an air carrier or an air operating certificate. Those are listed under 119.1. Typically, that looks like student instruction, ferrying flights, banner towing, power line, pipeline patrol, and a slew of other things. Additionally, there are some things you can do with large and turbine aircraft without holding an air carrier certificate or an FAA operating certificate listed under 91.501. This doesn't mean you can't fly for an owner of an aircraft. If the owner of the aircraft's purpose is to collect compensation from their passengers or compensation to transport a package or property, that's a commercial operation. As long as it's incidental to the business, you can receive compensation for your services. I hope this helps you out in knowing what you can and can't do as a commercial pilot. I'll see you next time.